Hey everybody, we wanted to quickly apologize for the audio quality this week. We had a little bit of a mess up and we weren't able to re-record. However, the content is still great. We think y'all still enjoy it as always. Also, this episode is going to be a little longer than our typical episodes because we are going to be off next week. However, we will be back the following week with more great content and also look forward to that draft talk that we're going to be having in 2 weeks. Thank you again for bearing with us and enjoy the show.
Welcome to episode 6 of another Jags podcast. We are Jaguar fans. We are lifelong Jacksonville, Florida residents, born and raised. We love our Jaguars and we love to talk about them. So if this is your first time listening, we hope you enjoy. Before we get to the NFL draft, we're going to be doing a mock draft tonight. Before we get to all of that, we want to let everyone know that we are on Twitter at Another Jags Pod, and we are on Facebook and Instagram at Another Jags Podcast. We'd love to hear some feedback from y'all. If you have any questions that you would like for us to answer, any topics you'd like for us to discuss, please reach out to us on all of those platforms. And again, you can find us on iTunes and SoundCloud or any other podcast platform. We are there for your listening pleasure. We have our regular crew here tonight. As always, with us, we're going to go around the room. Joey, how you doing?
What is going on, guys?
You ready for a little draft talk tonight?
Absolutely. Love the draft.
Good. Jason, how's it going?
I'm pumped for tonight.
Pumped. You got hard copies.
Oh, I got hard copies.
You're going
tonight.
Joey.
I'm going Joey style.
I think I'm more pumped than Jason to hear what Jason has to say about the draft.
I'm fired up.
I think Joey's printer is the old kind with like the ring size, that you peel the
dot matrix.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And of course, we have our sound technician, Robert. Robert, how you doing?
Doing good, just no papers with me.
No papers.
I'm paperless.
Yeah, we're digital. Before we get to talking about the draft tonight, which now is only a couple weeks away, we are biting at the bit to get there. But before we get to our draft predictions, our mock draft, where we put on the general manager hat of the Jacksonville Jaguars and draft the team as we see fit, and also what we think the team is going to do, we want to kind of recap really quick what we talked about last week in just a couple minutes. What we learned last week is that Joey, Jason, and myself all believe that the first 3 picks in the draft are going to be quarterbacks. Robert was the only one that thought that either Chubb or Barkley are going to go in the top 3, which isn't a stretch by any means. Just he's the only one that thought that. I still stand by what my convictions and think that the first 3 picks are going to be quarterback. Has anyone changed what they think in terms of that?
I hate to say it, but I'm not so sure anymore.
Really?
When I looked at the cap numbers for the Jets and how much money they have tied up, they have $18 million tied up in 2 quarterbacks. So I know they traded up to 3, and it's like the minority to think they're not going to get a quarterback, but it's not crazy to think.
So you think of the 3 teams that won't, you think the Jets are going to be the one?
Because they got Bridgewater and McCown, and they got so much money tied up in those guys.
I wonder what Bridgewater's the language in his contract is, though.
He's got $8 million pretty much guaranteed, and then he's got incentives up to like $17 million.
Okay.
I don't think he'll hit those incentives.
What if they cut him before the season? What was there?
It's going to be $8 million hit.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
So he's on the team.
He's on the team.
His leg doesn't fall off. He's
right. Yeah, he's on the team. And if they make the playoffs, and I think if he throws for over 3,000 yards, he gets the incentive contract, which could be up to $17 million.
Jeez.
And McCown, they're paying McCown $10 million.
If they don't draft a quarterback, why in the world did they trade up with?
Maybe they just really love Saquon Barkley or they show up.
Yeah, that was my first thought. That's crazy, though. That's a lot of money.
I mean, it's one thing to take a running back with where you're at in the draft. It's a whole other thing to trade up to get that running back. You must think he is the second coming of Walter Payton or something.
I mean, all they gave up was a second this year and a second next year.
Yeah, and money. I mean, he's gonna cost more at 3 than he would have at 8 or whatever they traded from.
They paid out a ton of money for 2 subpar quarterbacks. They don't know what they're doing.
No, who beat the Jags last year?
That's right. They beat the
Unbelievable.
Yes.
Cannot believe that.
Yes. And
where were you?
They're historically a terrible drafting team.
Well, that's usually being bad and drafting terrible go hand in hand.
Yeah, that's true. Like I said, I hate to commit one way or another, and I hate to be that guy, but I could see them going all 3 quarterbacks, and I could see the Jets. It's just crazy how much money they're giving quarterbacks, unless they just totally don't care about the salary cap at all, and they're just paying for players. I've heard that they like McCown as like a quarterbacks coach, but $10 million, that's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money.
It really is a good question, though, because, if you look at the mocks, last week everything was like quarterback heavy on the top. This week you have tons of them with Chubb and the Notre Dame guy,
Nelson.
like in the top 5.
Mm-hmm.
So it's completely switched from one week to the next. And I think that's kind of the fun part of this year.
Yeah, it's going to switch next week, and it's going to switch up until Thursday night of the draft on the 26th. But that's why it's fun to talk about. So I think Joey's the same as me, where we still believe that the first 3 picks are going to be quarterback going off the board. Yes, Joey?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I still think that's there.
We haven't changed. And Robert, you're still thinking Chubb, the defensive end from NC State, or Barkley, running back from Penn State, will be in the top 3.
Yeah, definitely.
One of those 2.
Definitely.
Okay. All right, so that was where we talked about last week. We also talked that Joey thinks that if Lamar Jackson is on the board when the Jags pick at 29, that they should select him. Not necessarily that they will, but that they should. Joey, do you stand by that assessment?
I still feel strongly about that, but again, looking at where stuff's panning out now, I don't think he's going to be there anymore.
Okay.
So I think that's off the table.
Yeah, I've been saying that too. I think he's gone by 29, just because, where does Baker Mayfield go? If he goes close to the top 10, you have to think Lamar Jackson is the next quarterback taken, unless something really crazy happens, and that's a long way to go without another quarterback taken. That's my opinion. Jason, you were kind of on, you saying he's too small, skinny legs.
I like to be on the fence. That way, I'm not
You're never wrong.
Yeah, exactly. It's the perfect strategy.
Playing it safe. Okay, and then we also learned last week that Jason has a man crush on Case Keenum.
Right. Also, are we going to go back 2 podcasts and talk about someone in this room picked Villanova to win the NCAA?
I was gonna get.
Oh, okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure no one forgot. Okay, just wanted to make sure because someone in this room did pick Villanova to win it all.
Yes.
And Jason, I'm a little embarrassed because I'm a humble guy. You should have brought that up.
And let me say this too, to add to that same person didn't pick them to win. Actually picked them to go back to back.
That's
which
right.
they did not win it last year. So.
No, they didn't. But last year was the forgotten year. But
Yeah,
I did get it right. That's all I'm going to say.
You got it right.
That's all I'm going to say.
You got it right. That's for sure.
We don't talk about any more than that. I just wanted to make sure the listeners knew.
Okay, so
that Virginia didn't win it all, and that Villanova did.
Virginia, yes, they did not.
Virginia didn't have a great.
Such a boring game.
Yeah. All right, we also learned Jason has a man crush on Cody Kessler.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, dropped a lot of good information about him as our new backup quarterback. But more importantly, what I thought stood out from what Jason said last week was that Odell Beckham Jr., if he were to be traded to the Jaguars, would make the Jags not a Super Bowl contender, but Super Bowl favorites.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you posed a question to us asking, do you think that we should trade? Joey and I both said no. I have to say, after going back and listening to our podcast, I might not be so sure about that anymore. I think it might be a move the Jags need to explore because what you said, which I thought made a ton of sense, you pair Odell Beckham with the number 1 defense, number 1 rushing offense. Suddenly now you have a top 3 at the worst. He's the 3rd best receiver in the NFL. The worst. You put him in with the Jags, that does make them awfully dangerous.
And an option I didn't think about last week was if he were on the team, you could just franchise tag him next year and pay him $18 million rather than $20 million a year for the next 5 years like he wants, and you could have him for another year. So you're not even really renting him for a year. You could have him for 2 years with a franchise tag.
I mean, the money is obviously a concern, but I mean, outside of that, I'm still back to the fact that I don't think he fits in with the team from an attitude standpoint. I don't think he would respect Bortles. I don't think he would get along with the grit that they got going on right now.
It would be something where they have to manage him, but think about Jalen Ramsey's makeup. He's brash, cocky, outspoken, and he's I don't know, he's become the Jaguars in a way. It brings that. So I think with Fournette on the team, being LSU guy, that's huge. They can keep each other in check. But if they could do it, if Coughlin can wrangle them in, it would be a huge addition. I mean, it would be a huge addition.
He's already been hanging out with Shane Wynn as well. So
yes, he has. Shane Wynn, do your thing, man. Bring him in.
I don't think he would fit where I do think he fits is at the Patriots. And I think that is possibly where he's going to go.
You think so?
I do. You got Tom Brady. He's got to respect him. Belichick's biggest ego, biggest coach in the world, Hall of Famer. They've traded off all these players. I think they might be making a move for him.
That would be interesting.
I don't think the Giants want to get rid of him. I think it's all smoke and mirrors for the Giants. If you're the Giants, why would you want to get rid of the best player on your team? I mean, he wants a contract. You don't really have your money tied up with anybody on your team. I mean, our attitude problem is really that big of a deal for bringing in a new coach? I mean, I don't know.
I think the Giants would trade him because they're not going anywhere, but it's gonna be costly. And so that's why I don't know if it was a rumor or factual that they're asking for 2 first-round picks. I mean, if they got that, they probably would trade him because he is in a contract year. They're not going anywhere. They probably see him as not wanting to come back. So unless they did franchise tag him. But anyway, that was all in last week. So if you want to hear more, you can go back to episode 5. But it is episode 6 tonight, and we have other things to discuss.
Yes, sir.
Mainly the 2018 NFL Draft, and we are going to discuss who we think the Jaguars are going to take in this draft. They pick 29th overall in the first round. That is very, very different from what we're used to. It's been top 10, top 10, top 10, top 10 for, it just seems like forever. Now all of a sudden, there was no, last year they were the 4th pick. The year before that, they were the 5th pick. Now there's no teen. We went all the way from one end of the spectrum to the other, and we find ourselves at number 29. So, Jason, you have your papers in front of you. Joey's scrolling on his phone looking to see.
Which takes a long time to scroll to 29.
Yeah, it does. It does. So we'll start with Jason. Jason, put on your GM hat of the Jacksonville Jaguars, or maybe it's the Tom Coughlin hat. We're not sure who picks here.
Yeah, probably Tom.
Yeah, probably TC.
Yeah.
So who do you think they're taking? What do you see happening?
I think I like to preface this with picking at 29 makes what we're doing now really hard.
Yeah.
When we're picking 4th, it's pretty easy. We kind of know who's going to go. Not a lot of options. We know who's top rated. But I think we're in a position now where we're at the mercy of what other teams do. I mean, there's, who knows who's going to try to trade back in. And I've heard so many rumors about teams trying to trade up and trade back in and trade out. It's hard to know what's going to happen. I think what we can say is that what we know about Coughlin and Caldwell is that they're going to try to solidify the offensive line and to block for Fournette. So I think they're going to end up taking the best available offensive lineman. So I know it doesn't really, answer your question, but I think if Will Hernandez is there, I think that we take him. But I really don't think he's going to be there. So I think Colton Miller, since I know a lot of people probably are going to go with Will Hernandez, I think something that people are not thinking about is Colton Miller, who's a UCLA tackle, and he's huge, 6'8" tackle. He had a great combine. He had like the best vertical leap of any offensive lineman. I know that doesn't really translate. It just kind of tells you what kind of athlete he is. At 6'8", has the best vertical leap. So I think if we can get Colton Miller, move him over to right tackle because we know someone on the offensive line is going to get hurt. Somebody. It happens every year. There was time I was watching film of the Jaguars, and there was times when Shatley was playing center. There was times when you had this this mashup of offensive linemen all over the place. Because when you have 5 starters at one position, you're not going to be able to roll through the whole season with them. So I think if Will Hernandez is there, we go Will Hernandez. I think he won't be there. So Colton Miller, I think that's who we take, a tackle out of UCLA.
And do you think he stays a tackle, or do they move him to guard?
I think he has the ability, and he's very versatile to where he could move to guard if we needed him there. But I think he would end up playing tackle more than chances of him playing guard. Because I know people think, or I know Parnell graded out decent, but he's not that great of a player. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but on screen passes, he's so slow to get out into space. He pretty much is useless against speed edge rushers. And I think the times of having a left tackle to protect the blind side, it's a big deal, but you got to have tackles on both sides because you have edge rushers now who can come from either side, and they're going to line up to the strength, to the weakness, to the field, to the hash. You never know where these fast guys are going to line up, and you need to have a tackle on both sides. And I think Parnell will end up being a liability next year.
Okay. It's funny that you say that because last week I would have been all in on Lamar Jackson. Like I said, I thought he might still be there at that point. Now I don't. But I agree Hernandez is not going to be there. I think they go Isaiah Wynn at that pick, though, the Georgia offensive lineman. Reason being is that it's the grit. Like, that dude is a tough, hard-nosed football player, and he's versatile as heck. I mean, he can play in Parnell's position, he can play in Cam's position, he can play on the blind side, if need be, because he played that at Georgia. So I think, if somebody gets hurt, if somebody goes down, or somebody doesn't perform well, that guy plugs in at, almost all the spots.
Yeah. Okay.
His size concerns me at tackle. He's a little short.
Sure.
I think he's 6 foot. So, I mean, you don't see a lot of 6 foot guards He played guard and tackle at Georgia, and that's where people say he's versatile. And I like Isaiah Wynn. He stays on his blocks well. He finishes his blocks well. He takes good angles to linebackers. He's got disciplined hands. Uses his frame well on both run and pass. His hands are strong. Good anchor. But I think when he goes up against NFL linemen, I mean, you got to think, a guy like Calais Campbell bull rushing him, golly, man, I don't like my chances with Isaiah Wynn.
I don't like anyone's chances with Calais. I mean, you know, that's tough. But I see what you're saying.
I think he's more of a plug-and-play type guy, though. I mean, I think he is so versatile that he could fit like 3 or 4 different positions for you if you need it, which is like you've got depth at a couple positions at that point instead of just one.
Yeah, which is important on the offensive line.
I agree.
For sure. Robert, what do you think?
I actually don't think they're going to go offense. I think they're going to go with Harold Landry, Boston College. He's a DN, but I think they're going to have him as linebacker. 2017, he had some health issues, but in 2016, he had 50 total tackles, 16.5 sacks, 7 forced fumbles, 4 batted down passes, and an interception. I think he could possibly be a beast to fill that linebacker spot that we're kind of lacking in right now. And I think with offensive linemen right now, I don't think the guys that we're going to want are going to be on the board currently, and I think they might hold off into the second before picking up someone.
Okay. All right. Robert is our kind of rogue guy on the show. Have y'all noticed that a little bit?
I'm not going to lie, I've never heard of that guy.
Yeah.
I've never heard of him.
Boston College scares me a little bit because they're pretty.
That's where TC was, so maybe he's got a little love. But
that's true. And Matt Ryan. But yeah, they haven't done much lately. But hey, who knows? I want to say this, too, before I reveal my pick. To our listeners, we did not tell each other who we thought was going into this. We're hearing this for the first time, which is a good thing. It might have been a bad thing because we're all kind of saying the same thing, because my pick actually is Will Hernandez, and I think he's going to be there. The reason being is because, guards just aren't taken very highly in the draft historically. They're usually second, third round picks. And the first round of the NFL draft is just wacky. Things happen that no one sees coming. So I think what you're going to see is a run of a certain position, quarterback being one of those, and another position that is not going to be guard. I don't see like a bunch of teams all of a sudden running to the phone to put their bid in on a guard. I think it's going to be maybe tight end or running back could be a really good one. If Barkley goes off the board early, watch out for all these other running backs that are to start coming off the board as well. It's just kind of like, it's weird because they're experts and they make millions of dollars doing this, but you almost see teams panic, in the first round. Not necessarily in the second round. I think people calm down then. But in the first round, there's going to be some dominoes that fall that we don't see happening. And I think it will be to the Jaguars' benefit because a guard like Hernandez, who I really like. I mean, obviously Nelson from Notre Dame is on a totally different level than anybody else, but Hernandez is good. I think he can come right in, start immediately, and solidify our offensive line and help Bortles, give him more time in the pocket, block for Fournette. Obviously, it helps everything. I've made my opinion about what I think about the importance of the offensive line. I think Coughlin, go back to his first day on the job with the Jags. Who did he draft? Offensive lineman, Tony Vaselli. He likes the big boys. On both sides of the ball, offensive line, defensive line. I think they're going to be pushing hard. And if he's not there, then I think, to Jason's point, it will be another one. But I think could be another tackle that they convert. But it's definitely going to be offensive line. But I think Hernandez is going to be there. I really do. I was looking at some other teams. I just don't see, him getting taken. I think it's going to be other things. Maybe that's wishful thinking, but I think he's going to be there.
I'm a huge Will Hernandez fan. He's got a great wide base. Very steady, good feet, good hands. He's got a good first punch. He can ride opponents beyond the quarterback and finish his blocks, all things you look for in a guard. I just think he's got a really high value, and I think the offensive line has become so important. I would love if the Jaguars drafted him because, I agree with you, I think he would be a day one starter, immediate upgrade over A.J. Cann, not to mention the depth that he would give our offensive line. He plays so aggressive. I just think he's too good to fall to 29, and he could be there. I'm with you. He's got a lot of potential and a lot of upside, but I think offensive line has become so important in our pass-heavy league that teams just want to make sure the quarterback has time to throw.
He ran a 40 at the combine. He ran a 40-yard dash in 5.15 seconds, and he weighs 327 pounds.
Totally take him.
How fast do you think you can run 40?
I could do sub 5 right now.
Are you serious?
Absolutely.
Sub 5?
Sub 5 right now.
Strongly disagree with that.
There's no way.
We have to do it after the
Strongly disagree with that.
barefoot.
We're going somewhere.
Sidewalk.
We're measuring that out and doing that. There's no way.
I think the only way that either of those guys are there when the Jags.
Oh, do you really think that? Or are you just messing
absolutely.
around?
I would bet.
Oh, man.
I would bet
We got it.
my entire bank account you cannot run a sub 5
There's
40.
no way.
It's not a lot, but
Yeah,
I would
it's
bet
not a
all
lot.
of it that
Yeah.
you couldn't.
I think the only way either of those guys are there when we pick is if they're smoking the same stuff you guys are and fail a drug test, man. Landry's probably going in the top 15, and Hernandez is possible but not likely. But I'd love for him to be there.
I don't know. I mean, I don't.
I don't think I could run a sub 4 or sub 5.0. I'm being honest with you. It's faster than you think.
I got Joey's back. He can.
It's faster than you think. I don't think I could run a sub 5.0.
I'm gonna call
back to that.
I'm gonna call a 4.8.
I didn't hear words you said about whatever player evaluation you're talking about.
The last time I ran a 40, last time I ran a 40 in high school, I ran like a 5.1, and that was like my prime athleticism. I'm just saying, it's faster. It's faster than you think.
Yeah.
It really is faster than you think. These are professional. I mean, quarterbacks run like 4.9s, and these are quarterbacks about to go to the NFL.
Well, since we're on the 40, what about Lamar Jackson not running the 40?
Who cares? I mean,
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, because there's a couple different takes on that. I mean, one of them is that he didn't want to run it because he doesn't want to be taken as a wide receiver. But the other one is that he's not as fast as he looks on game film.
Yeah,
Well, his point was, if you want to know how fast I am, watch game film. Which I'm thinking, yeah, that's what you should do because there's speed, and then there's football speed.
Very true.
He had nothing to gain to run it. I mean, it's lose for him. If he runs it fast, they want him to change positions. If he runs it slow, his draft stock falls. So he really had nothing to gain from it. Not having an agent probably didn't help, but
Yeah.
No, well, he is his own agent.
What I think we need to do here, what I think we need to do is find somewhere a football field, and we're gonna post on Facebook. It's at some point. I don't know when. Joey running the 40-yard dash.
Fair enough.
I mean, we have to.
I'll do it. Absolutely.
I lost all train of thought. I can't think about anything else right now except for that.
all right. Well, I'll just add. I was sort of add a little wild card thought to the first round, just in case it happens. I can go back and say I was right.
Right.
But I would say
You're hedging all your bets right now.
Hey, that's how we do it around here. Well, I think I got the Villanova thing right. You got to know how to do it. So I think a trade up for Derwin James would be something. And here's why. Because the more I watch Derwin James, the more I think that he can come down and play like a hybrid linebacker safety, which is in our defense is kind of the way we play our nickel corner. So I think he could come in and start on 70% of our defensive snaps as a hybrid nickel corner / safety. And I think he could immediately we could just serve one of the best defense in the league.
Would that be like a Troy Polamalu or like that type of position?
No, I would see him as a Troy Polamalu.
It'd be more like a Honey Badger type player.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they'd be more like a Honey Badger. But I think he's better than Honey Badger. I mean, Honey Badger's only getting like, $7 million this year on a 1-year deal.
He's been hurt so much.
Yeah. But I think, Derwin James has been hurt too, but I think he would come in and be like, because they play nickel most of the time. And we don't have a third linebacker besides Blair Brown. And DJ Hayden, he's getting paid a decent amount of money, but I just have absolutely no faith in DJ Hayden whatsoever, at really anywhere at all. And then the other thing I'll throw out there is a wild card that may happen is drafting Rashaan Evans, linebacker out of Alabama, because I think that we do have a need at linebacker. And if we want to go old school, base formation, 4 D linemen, 3 linebackers, they need another linebacker to go with Telvin, Smith, and Miles Jack, and I think Rashaan Evans could be that player.
Okay. He's a bigger linebacker, right?
He is. He would probably move to the middle, and Jack would probably play more of outside. And he would probably come off the fields on nickel situations.
If they draft Derwin James, I will cry tears of joy for a
They would have to trade up.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they don't have a lot of needs anywhere else. So what do you need a second and a third for? Tight end depth, receiver depth? I mean, you can get that in free agency.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you're right. If they get James, he can play straight up nickel. He can play safety, and he could play some linebacker. I mean, he's that good, that versatile, that much of an athlete. And I'm sorry, I think this matters. Then you have Jalen Ramsey, Telvin Smith, and Derwin James, all three Florida State studs on the same team. That matters to guys like that.
Absolutely matters. Talk about chemistry, man. I mean, that's huge. And I don't like Florida State, but bring them in. Get them.
Yeah, if there was a Florida player of that caliber,
absolutely.
I mean, I wouldn't care. I could care less of what school they play for in college when they come to the Jaguars.
My question would be is why is he tracking to go 10 to 15 if he's that versatile and that good?
Well, because of the teams that are picking in the top 10 are going, we said the first three are quarterbacks. So take those, off the board immediately. And then you have, if he picks at 13, then it would be a top 10 pick.
And he's a safety, and the safeties have been really devalued recently. You got players like Eric Reed, still out there, a really good safety that's unsigned. So if a team really needs a safety, you could sign a free agent that wouldn't be as good, but you're not investing an early first-round pick on a guy like that. So I think his position he plays has a lot to do with it, too.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And you have Minka Fitzpatrick is ahead of him, too. A lot of people are grading him higher. So that would be that first safety off the board. So, but, man, he would I don't know what – I really – we're sitting here giving our best guesses of what they're going to do in the first round. I could see – I don't know. I could see them trading up. I could see them trading out of the first round and not having a first-round pick and, just getting – trying to trade back a little bit. This is kind of how we started this segment, Jason saying – is really hard when they're picking 29 to know what they're going to do. But we have said numerous times on this podcast that the window is short to make a Super Bowl run. So how much are they going to invest in this window that they have right now? Are they going to trade up, make a splash, or are they just going to sit tight where they're at and hope a player like Will Hernandez falls to them in their laps and they get who they want?
There's also a ton of talk about how top-heavy this draft is. Whereas the first round, you're getting value, you're getting good players, but there's not that second, third, fourth round flyer that you're going to take where you're going to have a player like Telvin Smith, where you've had that in years past. I mean, there's a ton of people talking about that. So I think that kind of plays in as well. It's you don't have as many chances this year to get the guy you want.
Okay.
All right, so how about since we stole James's pick, we'll let James start with second round pick so that nobody steals it. We'll get his draft.
This is a big one. This is a doozy here. So with this second round pick, I believe the Jacksonville Jaguars, and this is going to take some falling. I'll admit, I think this guy's going to have to fall a little bit. But
and this is pick 61 to give everyone an idea. This is going to be the 61st pick.
Yeah.
61st player.
Their second pick is the 61st pick.
Right.
Mason Rudolph, quarterback, Oklahoma State. I like his size. He's 6'5", 235 pounds. He's a big boy. Coughlin likes big boys. Again, we've already said that once. And here's the thing that we didn't talk about with Cody Kessler signing last week is they got him for a conditional seventh-round pick, meaning if he does not make the team, they can cut him and they lose nothing. The Jaguars lose absolutely nothing. So if a player like Rudolph falls to them, they can now take him and say, see you later, Kessler. It was great while it lasted, but we're going to go with this guy. And now they have another big body. He's got a. I like Rudolph a lot. I'm high on him. I don't think he's going to be a first-round pick, but every time I turn on Oklahoma State, he seemed to be just throwing the ball all over the place. And this could be someone that they pick up, that they train up, and could maybe use as trade bait later, or as be a legitimate backup for a few years and then see what happens. But yeah, I kind of like the Jags taking I think they're going to take a quarterback in the draft somewhere. I disagree with Jason on that stance. I think they do if the right guy falls to them. And if Mason Rudolph is on the board in the second round when the Jaguars pick, I think they absolutely take him right there. Any thoughts? I see just stunned.
Yeah, I mean, they apparently interviewed Kellen Clemens and someone else of equal caliber this week about bringing in. I mean, if they bring in a Kellen Clemens, there's no way they're drafting a quarterback. I mean, that means you're looking at Bortles, Kessler, and Clemens.
Yeah, how much of these because I'm glad you said that because you have, I think that each team has 30 players that are about to be drafted. You can come in and talk with. I think that's the limit, 30 players. Now, keep in mind you have 7 picks in the draft, so 30 players is kind of a lot. Well, I guess, and some of it is made public, some private. So how much of this stuff is just smoke screening and just playing the game, if you will, for the draft?
I don't think the Jaguars have any value in smoke screening, bringing in a guy like Kellen Clemens, because if you're any other team in the league Is that going to make you think that the Jags aren't going to draft a quarterback, so you're not worried about trading ahead of them?
Yeah,
Maybe, but I mean, at least do it with like Kaepernick. Do it with someone that like people like might think you're serious with. But Kellen Clemens, I mean, golly, hasn't even been in the league in years. So
maybe that's just interviewing for a camp arm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, but are you going to bring in a camp arm and draft? Again, if the right guy falls to them, they may have the quarterbacks evaluated on their big board. Where if one falls to them, Lamar Jackson, Mason Rudolph. But I don't know. All the signs are pointing to if they do draft a quarterback, it would be like a 7th round guy.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if he's there, they are not married to Kessler in any way, shape, or form. They can cut him tomorrow and they lose absolutely nothing, which is an amazing position for the Jags to be in. It's ideal because they, in theory, have their backup in Kessler, but if someone better comes along, and remember, we're talking about best player available and throughout this whole draft, when they see this guy, who I like again, I think they snatch him and they get rid of Kessler and upgrade, really, for, now they're obviously paying him second round money, but, I think you're getting a lot better future player as well. So anyway, we'll see. You never know.
Yeah,
That's what I think could happen. I
think they'll go with a more value pick there. I think that they'll draft Mark Andrews, tight end out of Oklahoma in the 2nd round. He's a 6'5", 260-pound tight end. He had 62 receptions, almost 1,000 yards, and 8 touchdowns last year. He was the Mackey Award winner, meaning he was the nation's top tight end, and he's been called a red zone rainmaker with how effective he is in the red zone. He has a touchdown every 5 catches. I mean, this guy... He's like crafty. He's not like super fast. He makes guys miss by like the most subtle juke moves, which I always like in a guy because he's so big and he has no other options. He uses his big body to leverage position over the top of routes, which is something you look for in a guy that's not going to beat you with speed. He can mismatch with almost any defensive back. If you put him out in isolation against any of these sub 6'2" defensive backs, I'm taking him in a jump ball any day, being 6'5". Uses his frame well. He plays consistent. He averaged almost 16 yards per catch at Oklahoma. I mean, I know he was in a pass-heavy offense. He's not the greatest. Well, I'll take that back. He's not a good run blocker at all, which still concerns me. But I think there's a lot of value in him. He's had some injuries, so I think he's not going to be a first-round pick. And the tight end position is so deep this year that I think you can get a really good tight end in the 2nd round. So I'm going to say they're going to go with Mark Andrews.
And he's not a good run blocker, but he is a good pass blocker, in addition to all the offensive stats that you just mentioned, because he's one of the guys that I agree might be there. And I think the great position we're in is 2nd round. We really can take best available. I think he might be there. I'd be completely happy with that pick. I think Sonny Michel might be there. I wouldn't be unhappy with that pick. I think DJ Moore might be there. He's the Maryland wide receiver, which originally he was like a first-round draft pick, and now he's dropping. I mean, if we get any of those 3, perfectly happy with it. There's a lot of best available that I think are going to be there.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I wouldn't be upset with the Andrews pick either, or Sonny Michel, or the Maryland receiver. What's his name?
DJ Moore.
DJ Moore, sorry. I just don't. I wonder with tight end, like how many move tight ends are we going to have on the team? Because it seems like that's all we have right now. Not that that's an argument against taking Andrews. It just makes me question it a little bit. Obviously, if we take him, O'Shaughnessy's gone. You would have to think.
Which I would not be sad about.
No, I wouldn't either.
And the fact that O'Shaughnessy, I mean, the Jaguars used 3 tight ends last year, a lot. Like O'Shaughnessy was on the field a lot more than you would have thought at the beginning of the season. So. And there's that joke, the Jags have 18 tight ends, but 3 solid tight ends, the Jags use them. I mean, how much playing time did Tommy Bohannon get? I mean, that's not a player you went into the season thinking was going to get a lot of snaps.
I was just about to say, I think touchdown Tommy fits in that role perfectly, right? I mean, come on.
You could move any of those guys into that H-back position and, motion over to the opposite side. The Jags want to use these big guys, but they're not great run blockers, which makes me have a little hesitation, which is why I don't think we go tight end in the 1st round, which a lot of mocks have us doing. But I think you can get good value at tight end in the 2nd round.
Yeah, I don't think they go tight end in the 1st round either. I hope they don't. That's one position in the 1st round I don't want to see them really go to. Wide receiver, sure. Linebacker, like Robert said, sure, but not tight end.
Robert, you got anybody for the 2nd round?
Yeah, I'm going Connor Williams, offensive tackle out of Texas.
Ooh, I like that pick.
Yeah,
I do like that pick.
I like that one.
I think with all the injuries last year on the O-line, I think having a backup for Parnell and someone younger to kind of step in behind him, get some reps in, but kind of just get trained up would be a really big move for us, and just start shoring up that O-line depth too. He's a big boy, 6'5", 296.
Hey, I like that pick. I have him on my list here. I don't know if he'll survive to our second
I don't
round
think
pick.
he'll fall down, but if he does.
I could see it being our first round pick, honestly. Because I think we're going to go tackle or guard in the first round.
Well, I think no matter if they take a tackle or a guard, whoever they take, I think is going to play guard. I think they're going to move, and not permanently,
right.
but at least to start.
Yeah, at least get some reps in at another position.
I like Parnell better than Can. I think he can.
Parnell grades out better. Like we were talking about earlier off of the air, PFF. Parnell grades out on PFF like really well. But if you watch him,
he gets a lot of penalties.
He's the weak link on the offensive line, especially with what we try to do. I don't know. I'm not a big Parnell fan. I'm sure he's a great guy.
He's always a guy that's jumping off sides.
We don't know him at all. Slow, man. He's just slow, man. I don't like those slow guys. Those slow guys just don't have a spot on the field nowadays.
That's true. It's true. All right. I think that's everybody's second round pick.
I did want to throw in a little wild card here. Again, I can hedge my bets. Okay, a wild card second round pick for the Jags. I'm going to say Lamar Jackson being there in the second round, or Hayden Hurst, tight end out of Jacksonville, being from South Carolina. They brought in Hayden Hurst for a one-on-one interview, so we have to at least acknowledge that. They did bring in Andrews as well. But
if Lamar Jackson drops to the 61st pick, that's going to be a story.
Like you were saying, man.
You got to start questioning things if he drops down that low.
You never know.
No.
You never know. I mean, people fall and get taken early. It happens all the time. So picking where we pick, you got to have your board ready. You got to have your players graded, and you got to be willing to kind of pull the trigger on guys like Mason Rudolph or Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
You think if their O-line picks are gone at that point, they might trade back for one of those two guys?
Trade back. What do you mean?
Second, give up their first and go back.
If who's not like you mean if they want an offensive lineman and they're not there?
If the offensive linemen we've talked about are gone, they get taken.
Mm-hmm.
Do they give up that pick, trade back for multiple picks in the second and third possibly, and maybe get those guys like you're talking about?
At this point, I think anything's possible.
Yeah.
Nothing would really. I think trading all the way up to get Derwin James would surprise me because you're talking about. I don't know.
To
11?
15, 11 to 15, yeah.
pick, which is a pretty big jump from 29. That would surprise me, but a trade up to like 20 wouldn't necessarily surprise me, and a trade out of the first round, picking in the second round, wouldn't surprise me at all either. It'd be a little anticlimactic for us, not having a pick, but especially with the fact that Houston, which I would consider the Jags' main competition in the division, they don't have a pick in the first or second round this year.
Yeah,
so the Jags, they have a little breathing room there with that. So I think this could be a year where they, if the chips don't fall like they hope they do, they could definitely trade out of the first.
I think there's a lot of offensive lineman depth this year too. So I think they can get somebody, an offensive lineman in the first round. I'm really sold on that. That's what they're going to do, but I'm wrong a lot. So you never know.
Well, I believe it too. So I'm going to say you're going to be right.
All right, I like it. Yeah. All right, so moving on to the third round.
Yeah, third round.
Right. How about we start with Robert this round because we don't want to let anyone get their picks taken.
Right.
We're going to let Joey just kind of be the odd man out of this one.
Okay, I'm going to go back to defense. I'm going to go Josh Sweat, FSU, DN.
Ooh, I like that.
So you have them taking a DN first round and a DN third round?
I said DN first round, but switching him to linebacker.
You got to pay attention.
Yes.
I remember.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
I like that a lot.
He played DN, but I said he's a smaller guy, so I said switch him to linebacker. But Josh Sweat, I think especially looking in the future where we could very well possibly trade Dante Fowler. We got some big contract stuff coming up in the next couple of years. It'd be nice to have a little extra depth there over the next couple of years, maybe develop him a little bit more. Plus, I thought he was a great player at FSU too. So,
well, he got like crazy hurt his senior year of high school,
so
and he was like, stud recruited. He
had a lot of hype.
He has a lot of off the charts hype.
Yeah.
He's going to be one of those players that it'll be interesting to see where he goes and then what he does in the NFL because his skill set is unreal. Obviously, like a lot of really good players that are coming out of FSU, because FSU hasn't really done much, there's not a lot of talk about him, but again, I'm an FSU fan. I'm not to the point where Jags have to draft everyone that comes out of FSU or anything like that. I want them to get the best player. But I do think this guy is going to do some things in the NFL. Might not be his rookie year. Might need to get a little more strength on him. But, I mean, when he's on, he is good. And I could see that, like you were saying, too. I mean, who knows how long Fowler's going to be on the team? Who knows how much longer Campbell's going to be on the team? We don't know. So, continuing to invest in that defensive line, I think, is a smart move.
I'm not big on Josh Sweat. I'm not. And I got nothing against Florida State players.
In all honesty, I don't think he's going to get to the third round. I think he's going to be in the second round. He's probably going to go late second round.
I was going to say the opposite. I was going to say he's going to fall. I was going to say he might be available like the fourth or fifth round.
All the better. Hey, if we can get him in the fifth round,
I'd
player in the fifth round that turned out to be pretty good.
Yeah.
His name was Tubbs.
Yeah, he failed a drug test though.
Yeah, he did.
So that was the reason why we got him there. But I mean, I guess I'll just go ahead and jump in and say I think the third round pick they're going to get Shaq Griffin, linebacker out of UCF.
Okay,
He's famous for his play in the Rose Bowl.
Yes.
Sugar Bowl? We'll say both, just in case.
Sugar Bowl.
Sugar Bowl, right, which everyone's correct.
Yeah.
And he's at 6'1", 227. Had a great year last year. 11 and a half sacks last year. 57 solo tackles, and 20 tackles for loss. Plays with great speed, wraps his arms, really good athletic player. Had one of the best 40 times, and one of the best bench presses at the NFL Combine. He actually is like a punishing hitter. Accelerates quickly off of the snap, comes off of the edge quick. He posted 19 sacks over 2 years as an outside rusher and blitzer. Like we talked about, we do have a need at outside linebacker, and he has really good technique. So I think he could be a player. We've talked about him a little bit.
You are failing to mention the obvious thing about him, though.
Am I doing this shorthanded? No, he's obviously missing a hand, which is what he's known for.
Right.
But you wouldn't know it by his stats.
No.
And he plays really, really well at that position. And I think normally that would be something that would create concern, but he's shown that's probably the reason why he'll be available in the third round, if anything. If he had two hands, he probably would be a first or second round talent.
I mean, he originally wasn't even invited to the Combine. Who knows why?
Yeah.
That was the dumbest thing ever, because he killed it at the Combine.
He will definitely be taken in the third or fourth round.
Right.
Absolutely. So the fact that he wasn't invited to the Combine is funny, but he's a good player. I mean, another player that you could look at, Marquise Haynes, who actually went to University Christian here in Jacksonville. He's a good player. He went to Ole Miss, 7.5 sacks last year from the linebacker position, 45 tackles. Another guy I'm big on is Jannard Avery, linebacker from Memphis. So
which one though? Which one?
I'm gonna say Shaq Griffin,
okay.
But I do think they'll take a linebacker in the third round.
Okay.
So
I would say for the record, next time I want to go before Jason.
Yeah.
19 picks. And so
hey, I told you how I do it.
The GM. We're getting like 8 players around.
I do have to say though, I love the Shaq pick. I mean, talk about chip on your shoulder. Talk about something to prove and coming.
Joey loves himself a good chip on his shoulder,
man.
Yeah.
Talk about the guy that just wants to prove something, man. That guy's going to work hard every day. He's going to do whatever it takes, and that fits into our team and our lineup. I love that pick. I personally think we're probably going to get Tony Brown at that point. I think that's where we're going to fill our nickel DB position. He was at Alabama. Really hard-nosed tackler. Super fast, runs track and field. Definitely runs the 40 faster than I do. I would say way so.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
That was the combine stats. I heard he did pretty well.
No, I'm saying you're probably faster than him.
Well, what was his numbers? We got him on hand?
Who? I don't know who we're talking about.
Tony Brown.
Tony Brown?
It was under 12 seconds, so I think he's got you.
I think he would be a good fit at that point. To kind of fill in that spot.
All right, we're keep going. I got for the third round, probably no one y'all have heard of, because I dig deep,
Oh, yeah.
His name's Richie James. He's a wide receiver out of Middle.
You just like his name.
State. What's that?
You just like his name.
I do.
Did he go to Fletcher, Richie Brown?
No, he did, but not Richie James.
You said Middle Tennessee.
He's actually from Sarasota, though, which is kind of interesting. He's only 5'10", 183 pounds, so he's a smaller guy, but he's a great route runner. Did a lot of good things at Middle Tennessee State. But what I really, when thinking about wide receiver, I actually was thinking, who is our punt returner going to be this year? I mean, is Mickens still on the team?
D.D. Westbrook, most likely.
So if do you want D.D., who is arguably the third receiver at this point?
I'm big on
we
Dede.
don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know.
But yeah.
I would say he's the third
He's the
receiver.
third, yeah.
Okay, going in. So do you want your third receiver, fielding punts? I think this guy, Richie James, could do that. And also, the wide receiver core is young and it's not exactly proven. When you look at all of their depth at wide receiver, from Lee to Moncrief to Dede and then to Keelan Cole, not a lot of guys that are proven there. So I think they're going to definitely bring in a wide receiver somewhere in the draft, and I think this could be the guy. Again, just really good, crisp route running. So, Bortles is expecting him to be there. That's where he's going to be, and that is always a quarterback's best friend, is being where you're supposed to be at the right time. But again, his size does concern me a little bit, but I can see him being a possible punt returner and letting Dede just focus on being a wide receiver, keeping him healthy.
I think one of the big reasons why they let Allen Robinson go and they got rid of Allen Hurns was because of how good they think Dede Westbrook's going to be. Mm-hmm. Rewatching the games this year, I mean, that man he's a playmaker. I mean, when I was just going back and watching Baker Mayfield film, watching his highlights, they were all from when he had Dede Westbrook, and he was throwing the ball to Dede Westbrook, and Dede Westbrook was taking it up the field and making a play.
He blew past everybody on the field every single play.
There was a reason why he was a Heisman candidate, because he is a really, really good wide receiver, and I think we got a steal with Dede Westbrook, and he's one of my favorite people looking forward. I don't know if we're getting into the fourth round today.
Yeah, we are.
Okay, then never mind. We'll cut that part out.
Yeah, we will.
I mean, not to jinx it either, though. I mean, he obviously proved himself as a stand-up guy at this point. I think his freshman year he made a mistake, and he's revamped himself. I'm excited about him as well.
Yeah, I think we all love him, right?
Yeah, dude's going to be awesome.
Yeah, he is, which is all the more reason for him not to be fielding punts. I don't want the guy who could possibly be the best wide receiver on the team fielding punts. That just doesn't make any sense at all. So bring in someone else to do that and get annihilated, not your possible best receiver on the team. All right, fourth round. We're getting to where we're really just guessing. We have no idea.
So we're going to let Joey go first? Is that
let's go.
I thought we were only going 3 rounds, so I'd like to go last.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll go first because I really don't have a lot to say, because my fourth round pick was going to be Shaq Griffin.
Oh, okay.
So I had them picking him in the fourth round. I love the idea of everything you guys said. Plus, they would have the 3 fastest linebackers in the NFL playing. I mean, speed right now, I think, is a priority and a premium on defense than it's ever been in the NFL before. And so he ran a 4.38. I mean, he flew at the combine. Can you imagine him and Telvin and Miles Jack? No one's going to get to the corner on those guys. Mm-hmm. It would be so much fun to watch. And he does play with a chip on his shoulder, which is awesome. And he will come in and work. I think the team would in the city, because he played at UCF, would embrace him like crazy. Be a great story. And I think in the fourth round he would be a steal. I think it'd be a huge steal. So we'll see.
I'm looking at a couple guys here in the fourth round.
Your top 10 fourth round picks.
I'm going to start with I think this is where the Jags go wide receiver. I do think they have a need at wide receiver just for depth, because injuries are unfortunately part of the game. And if we're just looking at the track history of last year, we're going to need depth at wide receiver. I think Deshaun Hamilton, wide receiver from Penn State, 6'1", 210 pounds, had 900 yards last year, 53 catches, 9 touchdowns. He's got really good size. He's only 6'1", but he's got really, really big wingspan, plays a lot bigger than 6'1". He runs really rhythmic and precise routes, which is, like you talked about, what Blake needs, a guy he can count on to be in the spot where he's going to be. He comes out of breaks at really, really sharp angles, plays well through contact. He also a track guy as well, and I love the track people when they do track, because that just means that they're athletes in my mind. He really, really plays well on third down. Scouts have described him as special, and I mean that's what you look for when you're getting a guy in the late round. Anytime that scouts say he has that special something, because if a player is going to make a difference as a late round draft pick, he's got to have something special about him that stands out, that didn't stand out at the combine or on his tape, which is what you want. He's a high achiever, a team captain at Penn State, and I think he's an all-around going to be a really, really good value pick in the fourth round. I also want to mention.
Wait for it. Wait.
Tavares McFadden. I know we've actually talked about him in the past. I know y'all don't like him. but he's a 6'2", 200-pound defensive back, and he had 8 interceptions in 2016. I mean, that's what you look for. And, I mean,
The problem with him is he's just slow.
And people don't like the way he tackles, but he's a tall, gangly guy, which is kind of what the NFL is kind of turning to for these corners. He's an expressive – I'm sorry.
You know what I feel like he is? And you're not going to like this. He's a Gus Bradley corner. He's big and he's tall, but he's not good. But Bradley would use him because of his size alone.
He's a good press corner. He presses well. He doesn't chase well, but he presses well. He's got a good jab. He gets receivers off of their route. Now that you say that, Gus Bradley would love this guy. He really would. He'd be that cover one outside corner that probably shouldn't be starting, but is starting. But I think he just, if he was taught how to play with his back to the quarterback, he could really, really be good, especially for a 4th-round guy.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about him, you don't know, being from FSU last year, if he like Derwin James took the year off, but if he did, I mean, he took it off. Like, he just did not care at all because, I mean, he was muffing punts, he was letting guys go by him, he blew the Miami game. So hey, who knows? I don't wish the guy ill will or anything, but I don't really.
But 8 interceptions in one season, it's hard to get lucky 8 times. It really, really is.
Unless the guy that you're playing with is Jalen Ramsey, which he was. Jalen Ramsey was on the other side of the field that year.
Yeah, but still, you still got to be good at making interceptions at any level.
Yeah, I mean okay. I'll give you that.
Call me Gus Bradley because number 4 I have Tavares as well.
McFadden.
So McFadden as well.
There you go.
I mean, he was 2016 ACC all teams. So I mean, I think 8 interceptions in a season has to show some skill set right there. And with us losing Colvin now, we need some backup and some depth in that cornerback position. So I threw him in as our number 4.
Sounds good. I think this is where we're taking quarterback.
By the way, I am not an FSU fan, but I did pick back-to-back FSU players because they work really good in Jacksonville as of now. So
I think at this point, other than Miami players, they're the best pro players there are. You can't go wrong with an FSU player for the most part. I would go quarterback at this point, and I hope Luke Falk is there. He's the Washington State quarterback. They don't have the best division. They don't go up against the best defenses, but he is actually the 8th ranked quarterback as far as total yards go in any Division I school. So he had over 14,000 yards. He had a great sophomore and junior year. Senior year wasn't fantastic, but a non-fantastic senior year was almost 3,600 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. So I think he'd be a good flyer at that point. Potentially somebody to push for maybe second string. So we'll see.
I'm meh on Luke Falk.
What you?
I'm not big on Luke Falk. I'm not.
Dude, he's 6'4", he's 214 pounds, he checks all the boxes. What are you not big on?
Noodle arm.
You posted a GIF of him.
Noodle arm.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I don't know enough about him, I'll be honest with you.
I mean, he played in the Pac-12, and he's in shotgun every play. He's throwing 50 times a game. He's going to get yards.
Josh Allen.
Allen.
It's the same thing, minus he can throw 90 yards.
No.
It's the same thing, minus he can throw 90 yards.
All of this is moot because the Jags are taking Mason Rudolph. It really doesn't matter.
Oh, that's funny because I have them taking Chase Litton in the 7th round, but there's also 5 other players that could take that. So you never know.
7th round. How many rounds is the draft?
We have actually 2 picks in the 7th round, which is nice, and none in the 5th.
Yeah, none in the 5th. That's right.
But I mean, Luke Falk, I'm just not big on him. There's like a lot of connections for some reason between the Jaguars and Luke Falk. I've seen them mocked to get him a lot. So
I think that's just lazy.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't think he's that good. I don't think he'll survive in the league. I'm trying to think of a player that he reminds me of.
Mike Glennon is the NFL comparison.
He wishes he was Mike Glennon. I would say, oh gosh.
Where is Mike Glennon now?
The Bears, isn't he?
Yeah.
Who wishes
Still
they
with
were
the
Mike
Bears? No, I
Glennon?
think they traded him.
Did they?
Yeah.
I think they did to Arizona, maybe?
Somebody picked him up. Yeah, someone did trade for him.
We'll get Robert.
We'll get Robert to check on that.
Yeah.
But whatever. I don't have a comparison, but I'm just not a big fan of Luke Falk. But you may be right though.
Arizona Cardinals.
Cardinals. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So, all right, are we gonna go ahead and jump to the 6th round, or are we gonna spend a little time on this round?
I don't know. I mean,
anyone else have anything to add? I don't have any wild cards for the 4th.
I don't have anything left. Period. I mean, because after the 4th round, I'm gonna be honest with you. anything I say is going to be completely wrong because I have no idea.
Not me.
I mean, what I could do is just get a list of all the players left and just read all their names, like Jason's apparently doing.
Yeah. You want me to start? Okay, so let me tell you who I think they'll get in the 6th round. I think they're going to get good value at offensive line with Will Richardson from NC State, a 6'6", 304-pound second-team All-ACC lineman. If you can get a second-team All-ACC player in the 6th round at offensive tackle, I think you're doing good. Joey is so mad about that he's leaving.
Yeah, he just got up and left.
He really doesn't like Will Richardson.
He did run a sub 5.0.
Yeah, he got out of here quick.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Also, Traquan Smith, a wide receiver from UCF, 6'1", 210, first-team All-Conference. Another track guy. I like those track guys. But 59 catches, 1,200 yards as a receiver. I don't know.
We'll see. I mean, I think when it gets to the later rounds, I think they're just gonna continue to do best player available. But if they just go offensive line from 6th and 7th round, I'll be happy with that. Just get some big fat boys that can come in and sit down.
Yeah.
That's fine. I don't think you're gonna get a receiver that's gonna make the team at that point. I don't think you're gonna get. I hope they don't draft a tight end in the 7th round.
Well, I mean, Koyak was taken the 6th round?
6th or 7th, yeah, actually he was. So he's been around for a little bit. He's been around for a little
I do think the Jags like Chase Litton, quarterback from Marshall. That's the quarterback I think they'll take if they take one. And I think he'll be available in the 7th round. He may even go undrafted. But I think they could sign him to a pretty cheap deal, obviously, if you want undrafted. But he's 6'5", 230. He completed over 60% of his passes, threw for 3,000 yards and 25 touchdowns. I mean, he did have 14 interceptions, which isn't great, but he's not afraid to throw the ball. He kind of reminds me of Bortles a lot.
So let me just say this. Do you think they take – you said last week, the signing of Kessler, that they're not going to draft a quarterback. Do you still think that?
I think that if they do, they'll take with their last pick Chase Litton, or they'll sign an undrafted rookie to go into camp with.
But is that a camp arm or is that a guy?
I think it's to fight Cody Kessler for the job, and whoever they think performs better gets the job. Because like you said, the Cody Kessler is a conditional 7th round pick. They don't lose anything by cutting him. They bring in, from the looks of it, they're going to bring in another arm. And it looks like they want a veteran. I mean, they've shown us they like the veteran arm. I mean, they paid Chad Henne $7 million last year to not play a snap. So they're not afraid to bring in a veteran.
How much of that, though, do you think was to help mentor Bortles?
That's a lot of money for a mentor. For $7 million.
I mean, it's also the 3rd pick of the draft, that Caldwell, basically signed his name to. So they had a lot invested in Bortles as well.
Yeah. I mean, to answer your question, I think that they will bring in a rookie quarterback, but it'll be either 7th rounder or undrafted rookie.
Okay.
I went to the 6th. I didn't go to the 7th.
It's weak. It's lazy. It's just lazy.
I went to Allen. It's either Lazard or Lazard, Iowa State wide receiver. He's a big dude. I actually watched a few things on him recently because I saw his name pop up, and so I looked up. He's a big guy. He's 6'5". He's 227.
I think if you play at Iowa State, you have to be able to.
I mean, he averaged like 13.9.
He's corn-fed.
He averaged like 13 yards a carry, almost 14.
Is he a receiver?
Yeah, receiver. Okay. He had 3,360 yards with 26 touchdowns. That was over his career.
In one season?
No. Over his career.
Right.
Yeah. He's a beast.
Is his dad going to let him come off the farm to play pro football? That's the question.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, hopefully.
He gets Sundays off.
It's nothing but corn. He's corn-fed.
Wow.
They don't like grass-fed stuff up there.
Well, I mean,
a big target would be nice for him other than just...
If we're right about anything past the 3rd round, we're going to brag about it on the next episode.
Next
for
episode,
sure.
for the next year. Like, anytime you guys try and disagree with me, I'm just going to throw that right back in.
I'll be riding the Villanova pick for at least 6 months.
Yeah. So. If the Jags get Mason Rudolph in the 2nd round, you were never going to hear the end of it, ever. All the offensive line in the 1st round, you might have. Well, we all said an offensive lineman, so, but if any of us get a later round pick, right, it's over. If Joey does it, I'm not going to be able to handle it.
If Joey runs the 7.50 40, I'm done.
That's it.
It's happening. I might pull both hammies and be in the hospital for like 2 weeks, but it's gonna happen.
I got 10 on Joey.
You believe in him?
I believe in him 100%.
Hey, long stride, man.
I really thought Kansas State was going to get into the Final Four, and they're this close, but I think he's going to set it over the line.
I do want to clarify, though, and say that Joey was a collegiate soccer player. He was an athlete. I don't know. We'll let him decide that. But
that was decades ago. But my head, I still think I am.
That's right.
I got it.
Okay.
That's right. So anyway, that'll. I guess that's it for our draft talk for this episode at least. Again, who knows what they're going to do? But I will say this: I like the position they're in. 29th pick, picking best player available. They're not picking out of desperation anywhere. They can sit back and see what happens and then decide who they want to pick versus saying, we have to get this guy because we have to fill this hole because we don't want anybody there. That's not the case this year. So they're in a good position.
That's seriously the best spot. I mean, if they blow a pick, it sucks, but it's not the end of the world. Whereas before, man, you're making everything on that. Like, this has got to be the guy that brings us back.
But it's easier to not blow a pick when you're in the position they're in now.
Absolutely.
When you're picking out of desperation and you feel like you have to take a guy at this position, that's when you mess up.
Yeah, that's when you start forcing things.
Right, and they're not doing that this year. So.
And Caldwell's shown he's a good value drafter. He can draft well late rounds, and he doesn't. The value he's gotten out of players is. I mean, we talk about draft picks from like 2008 to 2013 and how none of them are on the team now, and how that's a terrible stat. Which now the Giants are now a part of that group as well. But we don't have to worry about that with Caldwell because he makes good picks late in the draft.
He does. I mean, some of our better players have been in the third round on. So that's right. So we'll see what happens. It's still a couple weeks away, but we can't wait. And we want to let you know, we're going to go ahead and tell you right now, the night of the draft, the four of us are going to be watching the draft and recording our podcast as we watch it. Now, when we release the podcast, it's not going to be live because then our podcast would be 3 hours long, or however long the first round is. But what we are going to do is our entire podcast of that week is going to be us reacting to the draft, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We can't wait. So you'll be able to listen to how we reacted the next day, and that's going to be available on Friday, April 27th, the day after the first round of the draft. So we're really excited about that. It's going to be a lot of fun.
There's nothing better than watching the draft through the lenses of a Jaguar fan.
That's right.
All picks. All picks.
Nothing better. There's nothing better. And you all are going to get that opportunity. So buckle up. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with a little bit more Jaguars talk. Welcome back to another Jags podcast, episode 6. We just wrapped up all of our draft talk, and we're going to kind of change gears here and talk about the latest Power Poll rankings. We all love them. Before we get to those, we want to remind you that we are on Twitter at Another Jags Pod, Facebook and Instagram at Another Jags Podcast. You're definitely going to want to check these out because that is where we will be posting Joey running the 40 in under 8.5 seconds is the over-under so far. But we do a lot on Twitter. We're trying to get more active on Facebook and Instagram, but if you really want to find out what we're up to, Twitter is probably where we're most active right now. We would love to hear any comments. If you have any questions that you would like for us to answer on our podcast, we'd love to do that as well. So reach out to us on any of those forums. And you can find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, or any podcasting platform. We are there for your listening enjoyment. So, gentlemen, the latest ESPN Power Poll rankings have come out, and our beloved Jacksonville Jaguars, after the free agency frenzy ended, dropped down all the way to number 8. All right, and let's start at the top. They're the as ESPN sees it, for whatever that's worth, are the 8th best team in the NFL. Is basically what a Power Poll means, and the long and short of it. Number 1, they have the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay, I think that's
fair.
That's fair. Super Bowl champions. Didn't really lose anybody. Gained a couple guys. No one of real significance or anything like that. So they're number 1. Patriots, number 2, the team that we beat in the AFC Championship game that the refs stole from us. It's kind of surprising. I mean, you kind of have to give it to them. It's kind of one of those scenarios where until they're beat, they get it. But I mean, let me ask you this before we go any further. If we play the Patriots again we play them in the regular season in Jacksonville. I'm crossing my fingers. That's a primetime game. I think it better be. I think it will be.
Yeah,
I really do. But let's say we meet them again in the playoffs. Do they scare you? Jason says no.
The refs scare me more than the team does.
Exactly.
I mean, they've gotten worse, in my opinion, personnel-wise. Their defense is still mediocre at best. I mean, they were in the bottom half of the league against the pass last year. I think they were actually worse than that. I think they were like 25th against the pass, which still blows my mind why we stopped passing the ball in the second half of that game. I mean, they didn't add much. They added those twin brothers at defensive backs. McCourty brothers, right? I mean, they don't do anything for it. I mean, there's a reason why they've been bounced around from team to team.
And they're going to have new coaching personnel next year, too. Even though it's not Belichick, that's still
Patricia. They lost Patricia.
Yeah, they lost Patricia. That's still huge.
Yeah, they got rid of Cooks, traded him today. They don't have Amendola anymore. They do get what's his name back, the guy that tore his ACL, the receiver. Can't think of him off the top of my head. Looking for one of y'all to help me out here. Edelman, thank you, Edelman. Get Edelman back next year. So that's big. They lost the running back.
Well, they also get Hogan back as well because he was hurt for the majority of last year. So
he played against Jacksonville though, and he didn't do a thing. You know why? Because Jalen Ramsey shut him down.
That's right. Their offense is going to be what it is with Tom Brady, but it's their defense that's going to be holding them back.
Yeah.
They added Claiborne, the defensive end from Atlanta. But the Falcons gave him away basically because they had better players than him. So their defense still, like I said, is going to be their weakness.
I talked to a couple. I would call them diehard Patriot fans and ask them, do you see is it crumbling? Is it coming to an end? And they both said yes. They were like nervously saying, yeah, I'm thinking this might be the end coming soon. It's not that they're going to be terrible or anything like that, but just the constant dominance of the AFC.
It's been 18 years. It's got to start slowly fizzling at this point in time.
And Father Time is undefeated, and Tom Brady's now going to be 41 this year, so that changes.
Did I miss something? Is Belichick and Brady, are they still on the team? You got
they are.
Two guards on the team. They've earned the right until proven otherwise that they are the best. You've got to go with that.
They should have lost in the AFC Championship game, which they didn't. I know they didn't. You
should have, would have.
But
they should have lost against Pittsburgh.
They were the second best team on the field that day, and then they did lose to the Eagles. They're going to get to the playoffs. Listen, I'm not arguing Brady and Belichick. They're insane, but eventually it's going to stop, and I think we're starting to see that. The team is getting older. They're getting slower. Players are going elsewhere, and I don't know. I think the decline. They're definitely on the decline. You can't argue that.
I think the only thing that's going to tear them apart is Belichick and Brady's egos and their relationship, because I do see that declining. I do see that tearing apart. I think that's the only chance it's going to tear that team apart.
And if Gronk gets traded.
Well, which is possible.
They won the Super Bowl without Gronk, and they lost the Super Bowl with Gronk.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Gronk is really a big deal breaker. But, the refs, come on, man.
Yeah,
they changed a rule in the offseason because the refs stole a game from the Steelers from them.
Mm-hmm.
And the Jags should have had home field advantage. So, yeah, I think the refs may not give it to them this year again because that would be just messed up if they did.
If the game is in Jacksonville,
totally different.
Unless it's the same refs 3 years in a row.
Yeah. Okay, that's enough about the Patriots. This is the Jags podcast. Now, third, we have Minnesota Vikings. All right, they got Kirk Cousins now as their quarterback. They have a nasty defense. They're going to get Dalvin Cook back, number 3. Okay, you guys big.
That's fair.
That's fair.
Yeah, can't argue that.
New Orleans Saints, 4. They had a great season last year. Re-signed Drew Brees, 2-year contract. The Saints to me just seem so up and down. Like 1 year they're dominant, and the next year they could win 5 games. I think that division.
The division's hard.
The division is hard. There seems like there's a new winner every year.
They lost Kenny Vaccaro. To be fair, though, they should have won the game against the Vikings. So they should have been in the NFC Championship game against the Eagles.
Would have been a much better game.
I agree, but they're another team like the Patriots that don't have any defense. They give up 335 yards per game last year. That's not good. You can say whatever you want about it, but the defense is the reason why they weren't in the NFC Championship game. So until they figure that out, they didn't really make any big free agent moves this year. They don't have any picks near the top. I don't know.
Would you have put the Jags ahead of them?
Me personally, I absolutely would have.
Yeah.
I would not have.
No?
No, absolutely not.
I'm shocked they're that high.
Why not?
The same thing. You got to give Drew Brees credit. They had an awesome season last year. They're returning almost the whole team. They could fail, yes, because Brees is another guy who's pushing that envelope like age-wise, and they have 2 running backs that run like they're going to get destroyed at any point. They go in like they're going to get killed. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they could both get hurt at some point. If that happens, they're done. But gotta give them credit for what they did last year. It's not a lot different. So why can't they repeat that?
Well, they can, but let me ask you this: how does Jacksonville's defense stack up against New Orleans' offense?
That would be a great game.
Yeah.
I have no idea. They could go either way. That'd be fantastic to see.
It'd be a fun one.
It would.
But, we would only see that if they both were in the Super Bowl because one's in the NFC, one's in the AFC. Okay, so here's where things get interesting because we've had the only AFC team we've had so far on this list in the top 4 is New England. Well, now we have another one, and it's a team that the Jaguars beat. Not once, but twice.
And on the road.
Yep. On the road. Yep. The Pittsburgh Steelers have them at number 5, 15. What do you guys think about that?
That's a joke.
Yeah.
It's ESPN.
I think it is too.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the ones I was like, are you kidding me? I mean, Roethlisberger's head is not there anymore, I don't think. I mean, whether he can check in for all the games this coming season is very questionable.
Mm.
He almost wanted to retire last year and the year before. So, I mean, he's got, maybe 1 year left? Le'Veon Bell is a headache. Antonio Brown is a diva. I mean, that could go completely wrong.
They should be like 9 or 10.
I see them. I think they're still going to win the division because of the division that they're in. I don't see any team. I mean, honestly, I think Cleveland is going to be the next team up in that division to compete with them. But it's a lot like New England. There's just not a lot of competition in that division. So I think they're going to win it. But, yeah, I mean, I just don't see them as no one's really talking about Ryan Shazier, the linebacker that they lost, he was one of the best linebackers in the NFL. I mean, he was the heart and soul of that team. They lost him definitely for this next year still. So,
not to mention they were 27th in sacks allowed, and they turned the ball over 20 times. So they got issues. Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of that against the Jaguars. The Jaguars sacked them and picked them a lot, but still, I mean.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, that's the truth, though. I mean, we beat them twice in their own house.
Like a drum.
We beat the living crap out of them. Yeah. It's great.
It is. So, hey, let them be 5 and we'll be 8 and just beat them twice again this year. But it kills me that, they can put them that much higher than the Jags. All right, so moving right along, we have at number 6, the Los Angeles Rams. Are they the champions of the offseason? They have to be, don't they?
Gotta be.
I mean, Ndamukong Suh, now they got Brandon Cooks. I mean, the list goes on and on.
They remind me of the Jaguars last year.
Yeah.
Like, literally made a lot of the same moves that the Jags did this year, minus the wide receiver move they just made. But, I mean, Aaron Donald and Sue, they're going to be tough. First in points. They don't have a great – I mean, and Gurley's a good running back, but they were 28th in rushing last year.
Really?
14 fumbles lost.
That is surprising.
They don't have a first-round pick this year. Could hurt their future. So they're in win-now mode for sure.
Yeah, all the chips are in.
I would say their power ranking is here now, but I think they're only going to go down after this year. Their secondary outside of LaMarcus Joyner, who's undersized, but FSU guy,
yep.
Not that great. I know they made moves for Webster and Roby Coleman, who are okay, but their defensive secondary isn't anything that scares me.
Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib don't scare you?
I forgot they got Marcus Peters. He's pretty good. Aqib Talib doesn't scare me so much. Marcus Peters is pretty good.
I only know because his name is right in front of my face.
Yeah, and I think Sammy Watkins, who's no longer on the team, was a big loss. I would rather have him than Brandon Cooks, in my opinion.
Well, I would rather have Sammy Watkins and their first-round pick.
Absolutely.
I don't really understand that move. I don't understand that move at all. But, you said they're kind of like the Jaguars last year. But to me, it's a little bit different because they are bringing in some serious high-profile names that don't have great track records. I mean, Calais Campbell is a team-first guy, and his thumbprint on the team is a lot more than what he just showed on the field. It was locker room as well. That's not Ndamukong Suh. That's not Aqib Talib. That's definitely not Marcus Peters. So this could be one of those things where it could either like really work well, or if they have a bad game or two or a stretch where they're suddenly they're not getting along. They still have a very young coach who he had a great year last year, coach of the year, but I don't know. This could blow up too.
I almost see this like a Dan Snyder Washington Redskins like all season. Like it all looks good on paper, but it easily could either, like you said, be phenomenal or a complete disaster.
Yeah.
I love Sue. I mean, he just straight up goes, if you're not going to pay me the most money, don't even contact me. I love that.
Have you seen the footage of him all the time, just like standing? I mean, that guy is a freaking...
He just does not care whatsoever.
I mean, he's scary.
He's like, I'm going to show out, and I want to get paid for it.
Yeah.
That's going to be a tough D-line to block.
Yeah, those two guys on the interior.
He's a beast.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm not upset they're in the NFC.
But I like the fact that they're like pulling like a Yankees, man. They're making a run. I mean, they're all in, like everybody keeps saying. They are trying to win it.
The NFL is ecstatic about it because
Absolutely.
They're in Los Angeles.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, you got
more names they can bring in, but for the Rams, that could be a very bad thing because they're in Los Angeles and they have all these high-profile guys that are interesting. Okay, we're gonna move along to number 7. This one I don't get.
Yeah, this is the worst.
I don't get this at all. The Atlanta Falcons. ESPN has ranked above the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I'm hoping Jason can give us some football.
I like
okay.
the Falcons.
Okay.
But
I saw this and I was like,
Okay.
how? Is that-
Knee jerk, I was like, what? But then when I started thinking about it, I'm really not as upset about it as I was initially. Okay? And again, I was with you, but when I started looking at it, they had the same record as the Jaguars in a tougher division. Okay? So right off the bat, their win-loss was right there with us. I think both the Falcons and us are a little too low. They weren't great in red zone scoring percentage, but they still had one of the best offenses in the league. They had a couple tough breaks against the Bucs and then against the Saints, but I think they're a better team. Their defense is actually pretty nasty. Their D lineman they drafted, Takarius McKinley, 6 sacks last year, pretty good for a rookie. They did well in the draft. Keanu Neal is a good safety, but I think the Falcons will win the NFC South next year.
over the Saints
Yep.
and the Panthers.
Yep.
And that's a tough division. It is every year. It's a tough one.
I mean, that Super Bowl hangover is a real thing, man. And
and they lost their offensive coordinator.
Right,
who is now
right.
San Francisco.
And I like Dan Quinn, but I'm big on the Falcons. I think that they're going to have a better year next year. I don't think they're better than the Jags, but I think they're definitely better than the Steelers and the Saints.
Yeah, I have no problem with them being in the top 10, but I do not think they're better than the Jags.
Yeah, I was more looking at just are they better than the Jags, and I would say no. My approach to every game, every team is pitting their offense against our defense, because that is our strength and that's how we're going to win games. And I like Matt Ryan a lot. I think he's a great quarterback. Obviously, Julio Jones is amazing, and Devontae Freeman. So they have weapons clearly, but I just think our defense is better than our offense, which says a lot because their offense is really good. And if there was a team that I was going to cheer for in that division, it would absolutely 100% be the Atlanta Falcons. I just don't see them being better than the Jaguars.
Well, with that being said, is there an offense in the league that scares you against our defense?
No.
I agree. I mean, if you're stacking those up against each other, bring it on.
Yeah, I'll say this. Going back to last year in the playoffs, Pittsburgh's offense scared me more than New England's. When we beat Pittsburgh, I was actually, that was the big hurdle. I thought, okay.
Yeah, I thought we were losing against Pittsburgh in the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we beat them, it was like, okay, now New England, sure, we can take care of that. We just beat Pittsburgh. Because Pittsburgh, I thought, was better than New England last year, too. Jason said earlier that, the rule change is because New England stole a win from Pittsburgh as well. So they can be griping just as much as we are, except for the fact that they didn't play them again because we beat Pittsburgh. In Pittsburgh. Did we mention that we beat them in Pittsburgh?
I think we mentioned it.
We beat them twice.
And it was our offense that stepped up in that game. We scored 45 points in that game.
Yeah, although 2 of those touchdowns were defensive.
That's true.
There's something. But hey, it was a team win. That was one of the funnest games I've ever watched as a Jaguar fan.
It was
the
a
best.
blast.
And on top of it, because Roethlisberger to Brown, there were 2 touchdowns that were all time. Throws and catches.
Yeah.
And we still beat them. It was like, this is the best of the best, and we beat them.
Right.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So the Jaguars come in at number 8. James, where would you put the Jaguars if you were making this list?
Oh, that's a good question. I would. If I was making this list, I would keep Philly at 1 because they deserve it. They're champs. Y'all gonna laugh, but I'd probably put them at 2 or 3. I might put them at 2. Of course I am. I'm not Homer, but listen, I believe that they're a better team than the Patriots. I'm sorry, I believe that. So I would knock New England out of there. Minnesota should, got lucky beating the Saints. Kirk Cousins doesn't do anything for me at all. So I think our defense again can size up and beat their offense. Who's their number 1 receiver? What's that? What's the guys? I can't.
Adam Thielen.
Yeah. So
and Stefan Diggs, they're a pretty good combo.
They're good, but they're you think Ramsey and Boyd are going to have issues with them?
The problem is that Thielen doesn't line up on the outside against those corners. He makes his money against those slot corners and those linebackers, where that's where we were weak, was against those. The 49ers abused our linebackers in pass protection or pass coverage.
Yeah.
So I think they just expose people. They have Stefan Diggs who can take a Jalen Ramsey on the outside, but I don't know. I'd put the Jaguars around 3. I think the Vikings are probably 2, and I think the Jaguars are probably 3. But any given Sunday, I think the Jags could beat the Vikings or the Eagles.
I tell you what, I'll answer your question bluntly. I would put the Jacksonville Jaguars at number 2.
Number 2.
You guys are you're killing me, man. Like, I'm the biggest Jaguars fan. Like, maybe not. I guess maybe I'm the third or fourth biggest. I think 6 is where I put them. I mean, I think that they've proven themselves, but they've got a lot to prove. And I think the teams above them, for the most part, that they've ranked them, there's legitimate reasons why they're there. But with that being said, my favorite part of the list is the fact that, first of all, we're ranked before the Packers. When does that ever happen? And the second thing is, if you go to 10, Houston Texans at 10? That's the crazy thing.
I love how they
That's crazy.
I like how they cited the addition of Aaron Colvin as why they moved up.
Yeah.
And we let him go.
This is why this kills me, because if you put the entire Jacksonville Jaguars team in Minnesota Vikings uniforms or in any, then we shoot up the list.
Absolutely.
And that's what I understand what you're saying, Joey, that these teams are proof stuff, but all the ones ahead of them, well, the Patriots, I think, are trending down. The Saints, I think, are trending down. Steelers are definitely trending down. These are teams that have been great, but they're old, and the Jags are not. The Jags are young and are ascending. So I think they go up. And I'm sorry, I just think I think if they played Minnesota, I think it'd be a great game. I think Minnesota is a really good team. They're kind of a lot like the Jaguars. Their receivers don't jump off the page at you, but they're better than you probably think. They have a strong running game. Kirk Cousins gets the advantage over Bortles, but both defenses are strong. So it would be maybe any given Sunday. But I'm a Jags fan, so of course I'm going to put them ahead. But the Saints, I just don't trust Gary Payton to be consistent year in and year out. Drew Brees, I love. I think he's incredible, but again, he's getting older as well. I would put the Saints, though, ahead of the Vikings, I think. I would.
These lists come down to street cred, though, to some extent. I mean, You've got a lot of teams above us who've done it year after year for 50, 60 years. I mean, the Jags have been good 2 or 3 times. So we're earning our spot. The fact that we're 8, I'm not too sad about that.
I mean, I'm not like sad about it. I think it's it's cool that we're in the top 10. But I just think it's because we're Jacksonville that we're 8.
Absolutely. A lot of it is that.
I think the biggest thing for them is Bortles. I mean, if you take any quarterback from 13 up and put him on the Jaguars, I think we move up into the top 3. But I think people are just so concerned about Bortles and his ability to take you to the next level that they're so hesitant to put us up. Now, I love Bortles. I think he has the ability to win a Super Bowl. But in the national media's eyes, I think that's what's holding us back the most is Bortles.
Yeah, but our breakout year is the year that Bortles is our quarterback and we get all the way to the AFC Championship games. I mean,
and for the record, that's the Bortles on our podcast at some point plug. We
that's
one
right.
every time. But I think you're right as well. If we had anybody else, we'd probably be in the top 4 at least.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing about these power polls is they mean nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
They're basically for us to talk about.
Because where were we on the power polls last year? Like 20-something?
Yeah.
So
I didn't care about them, and I don't care about it now. Take it.
We did start off at number 5, though.
No, we started off at 3. No, that's not true. I read someone wrote that the Jags were the 3rd best team in the league, but I don't think it was for ESPN.
Either way, we have dropped since free agency, so there is some kind of formula that goes into this.
Although we did sign one of the best free agents available.
I know that's just I don't get why we drop it, especially when a lot of these teams didn't really do much. New England didn't do anything really.
The Eagles lost people.
Players. Yeah.
I mean,
so I don't know, but again, it doesn't mean anything at all except for us to just get mad about, which I did. Yeah, I accomplished that. We were gonna mention really quick the rule change that happened. We are going to talk about this briefly because we're going long tonight. We understand that. NFL made a new rule, basically, that you cannot lower your head to initiate contact. I don't think they realized when they made that rule that this is football that we were playing. Guys, real quick, what do you think about this rule?
I'll jump in real quick. Barry Church actually had an interesting take on this when they interviewed him about it. He was saying, there's no way a defender can tackle at this point in time because if he goes up top, he's going to initiate contact with the helmet. And then if they're running the ball, the first thing a running back does is ducks down, drops his head, and goes. How are you supposed to stop a running back running through? Every single play, you would have a penalty. And on top of that, then you give the refs the opportunity to essentially eject a person if he has more than one a game. That could be a complete mess. I think it's essentially going to turn into holding calls where it's just going to be randomly thrown out there at this point in time. Because, almost every play technically by the rule standard, there's a holding, but they're constantly just kind of freely letting some go, letting some not go. I mean, it's in my opinion, it's given way too much control to the refs to make that decision.
I think it's going to be another one of those rules. I mean, I saw a stat that this is the 48th rule change they've made concerning player safety in the last 10 years. And, you don't even realize there's been that many, but they're making an emphasis on this stuff. I think it's one of those rules that they just kind of put in vaguely that you won't see too much repercussions, until, the next couple of years. Like Robert was saying, you're going to have to make some sort of amendment referring to offensive players that lower their helmets to initiate contact, because it's not fair. But if there's one thing we know about the NFL is that they don't care about, the offense's advantage. They just, want there to be more points scored. And they're trying to get rid of concussions. No one likes to see these players on the ground, holding their head or not moving, taken up on a stretcher. And, I think it's kind of hurt, the fan base, seeing a guy like Ryan Shazier go off, be done probably for his career. It doesn't help the NFL. So, they've already taken out a lot of special teams plays. I don't think we'll see a lot of changes in our, everyday game until, for a couple of years.
I am 100% for player safety, and I understand completely. But at the same time, I mean, this is a full contact sport. When you're having the NBA having issues with concussions, I mean, how on earth can you even begin to start eliminating concussion issues in the NFL if the NBA is having concussion problems? I mean, that is nowhere close to a contact sport compared to the NFL, and they're having issues with it. I mean, as science advances, I think we just realized the more you get tapped on the head, the more you're going to have concussion problems. But unfortunately, I mean, this is a full contact sport. There's no way to eliminate concussions. And I don't think changing the rule, and again, I understand because I'm with you, I don't think it's going to be a full-blown, every play is going to be a penalty. But at the same time, I mean, I don't think them changing the lowering the head only for the defender is going to change anyone having a concussion, because a running back can run right into someone's chest and have a concussion without even touching the other player's helmet.
It's completely about the concussions and wanting to placate people like they are doing something. I mean, if you look, women's soccer is actually one of the top sports for concussions because of heading the soccer ball, the actual art of it, the way to do it. That's the number one sport and you don't wear helmets. I mean, they're not doing anything about that. All this is put in place for is to say, hey, we've done something for it. No way that they're going to enforce it. And the reason being is if they do, it's going to change the game completely. And they have all these other leagues coming out in the next 2 to 4 years that aren't going to do that. They're not going to lose their market share based on that. I don't see it happening. I think the refs are not going to enforce it.
Go back to leather helmets. That way it hurts if you hit your head on something.
And that's honestly, you joke about it. But
that's probably what it could do.
Tony Baselli has good and bad points, but he's a meathead. I like the guy. He's old school, but that is really the only way. You put the old leather helmets on, and hey, guys, you want to lower your head? Go for it. Otherwise, man, it's never going to stop. It's the game. It's part of the game. I don't see it happening. These guys know what they're getting into at this point. It's not like back in the day where you had no idea. They didn't have the tests. They didn't have all the medical and track record of what happens to people when they get multiple bangs in the head. And now people know what you're getting into, and you're getting paid a lot of money to do it. So I'm for safety as well, but I think they know what they're doing. Yes or no? I mean, do it or not. It's your choice.
I think it's going to dilute the game. I think it gives the refs a lot harder job than they already have. They're trying to officiate 22 guys on the field. Now you add this in the mix. It's going to be tough. My first and really only thought on the whole thing is, how does it affect Leonard Fournette? A running back that, goes right into the pile, head first.
He can run through them now.
He can. I mean, but at the same time, he can get penalized as well. It's not just defensively. He can get penalized. So, my concern is that every play, there's going to be a flag, and that makes the game not entertaining. So I don't know what's going to work. I'm kind of with Joey. I don't see how in the world they can possibly enforce this. And you're just going to have coaches getting mad because it's called one time and not the other. And the NFL completely screwed this up. They did a terrible job with this. I don't know if it's something they can repeal or not, if it's too late. But if they can, I wish they would. I think it's a stupid rule. That's my take.
I agree with you.
I'm pretty surprised the Players Association allowed it, honestly. I mean, I know they've been pushing for more education, more safety, but this doesn't fix any of that. All it does is mess up the game and mess up their players being able to make more money.
Can I briefly ask, why can we never get the owners on board to review personal foul penalties? Those are game changers every year. I mean, people make the argument that it'll slow the game down. It won't. You still only get 2 reviews. But why can't you just go ahead and review a personal foul?
I think that's a great point. I mean, how many of those are, in a given game? What, maybe 1, possibly 2 tops? It's really not going to slow things down. Those are the ones where people really get hurt.
And we're going to wrap up the show there. Thanks again for dealing with our audio qualities this week. Again, in the future, we will have much better audio quality for y'all. As always, you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Another Jags Podcast, on Twitter at Another Jags Pod, and please, please, please submit all the questions you have to us on any of those platforms. You can also email us at anotherjagspodcast@gmail.com. Just as a reminder, we are not going to have our episode airing next week. However, we will have some great content in the future weeks. Again, thank you so much for listening, and go Jags.